Hello, Instagram. Oh my goodness, it's been such a long time since I have done a live on Instagram. But today I am doing this to share with you something that is quite a crucial foundational thing to look at if you are a expert in your industry, you're a coach, consultant, and you want to find ways to increase your authority and you're a service-based business, then this is for you. I'm just going to bring on the lovely guest that we have here. She's going to be joining me today. Hopefully she will join in 1 second. So whilst we're waiting for Sabika to come on, this session. Hey!
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very, very well, thank you. See Tom's there. So I was just explaining what this is all about. I'll come on to introduce you in just 1 second. So an expert method is something that I recommend anyone having, regardless of whether you want to be a speaker or not, although this is kind of designed to put into a signature talk, or you might want to use it for a book, or you might want to use it to really explain visually how you help your clients in a unique way. And I think this is the thing that I see is a lot of people think, well, I'm this coach and I'm that coach, but I don't know how to make myself unique. How can I stand out in front of all of those people when there's loads of other coaches around? Well, this is how you do it. And it's a very unique process to you, because only you have your story, only you have your set of experience, your set of tools and your journey that has created this service that you offer in your own unique way. And the expert method is a way of creating that and visually representing it, so that you have a stamp. You are the go-to expert, and that's your unique method. And I want to introduce Sabika. We have worked together in a capacity before, because Sabika was actually one of the amazing speakers at my TEDx Mosey event, which was in January last year. Her talk was absolutely impeccable. It was a fantastic talk, and I loved watching that whole process of seeing you from start to actually standing on that stage. But Sabika is a reparenting coach, and I just want to kind of hand over and let you explain very briefly what you do, Sabika.
Thank you so much, Helen. And yeah, it's been honestly such a wonderful journey with you, and it's so good to be able to connect with you again and to cross journeys. So yeah, thank you, Helen. I'm a reparenting coach. So what I do is I use therapeutic coaching to guide adults to connect back to their inner child wounds, so they can create relationships where they're thriving, not just surviving.
Yeah. I'm hearing that authority headline. So just for transparency, Sabika and I have had a discussion about this, because what I will say is, when you're creating your expert method, it is a bit of a process and it does require some thought. So for the benefit of you guys, we're going to take you through kind of that journey that Sabika and I have discussed in terms of how to create Sabika's expert method. So just to clarify, Sabika, so just tell us a little bit about how long you've been doing this, and where you were at when we first started having this discussion about how you're serving your clients.
So I've been a reparenting coach for about 3 years now. And when I did my TEDx speech, I was at a point where I needed to kind of solidify who is it that I'm actually serving, and getting my story together of turning my wounds to wisdom. So it was really lovely, because it was a step towards me and my uniqueness in terms of how I'm serving people. And now it's so wonderful that we've connected again, because I feel like now I'm at a point where, okay, I can use my words and I can explain to people as much as I like about my story and the journey that I'm taking them on. But it was just missing something. And it was really that visual that you've helped me to create, and you are helping me to create, that just taps into people's visual learning styles. So I'm just so excited, because this is where I'm supposed to be at, and you're there and you're helping me. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I want to share with everybody kind of like the process, so that you can look at this for yourselves, whether you are a coach, a consultant, an entrepreneur, a business owner. There has to be an element though, if you're watching the replay, of taking someone from a place where they're at before they start working with you to a place they're at where they finish working with you, and what that journey actually looks like. So we started with the authority headline. So we spent a bit of time on that. You've actually just dropped that right in there, which is brilliant. Could you, yeah, could you give us that authority headline again? Oh, go on. Oh no, we've lost speaker. I don't know if anybody else, can anybody else see me still talking but not Sabika? Because we seem to have lost her. Okay, whilst we're waiting for her to come back, let me know if anybody who's watching, if you can still see me. Hopefully you can. So Sabika's, oh, she's gone. So Sabika's authority headline is, I guide adults to reconnect to their inner child wounds so they go from surviving to thriving. Okay, so that is an authority headline. If you haven't got that nailed, then thank you, Bridget. If you haven't got that nailed, that's where you start with this, because we have to start with foundational stages of what makes you an expert. And as I say, this all leads towards so many other things. It's clarity for you on becoming the go-to expert in what you do. So if you haven't got that bit nailed, then absolutely get that nailed first. So there's an authority headline and then there's an authority statement. The authority statement brings it into more detail. So you can look at that as well, but start with the authority headline. This goes on your LinkedIn profile. This goes on your Facebook profile. This goes anywhere where people can see it and they can see your shop front. And also when you're talking to people, this is what you use. And then what you do is you go into the specifics of where people start on their journey with you. I'm just going to bring Sabika back on. Hopefully she can join us. Are you there, Sabika? Hopefully. Hey, everybody who's here, let me know. I think I know Bridget. I think I saw Ed there. I know Ed. I think I saw Tom. I know Tom. But anybody else, just let me know what you do and what business you're in, so that we can help you with this, and you can ask questions as well. So Sabika's not come on. This is going well. So the next thing is to start what I call with the underworld. Okay, so we start in the underworld, and that is where your client is when they start working with you, before they start working with you. Where are they? What are they seeing, feeling, and doing? And you have to get quite detailed around that. So I invite you to write all that down in specifics. What's going on for them? What problems are they experiencing? What issues are they facing? Hey, Sabika, if you could try and request to join again. I'm just going to keep going, and we'll bring you on again. I'm just going to keep going until you're able to come on again. I hope you don't mind. Look at this over the left-hand side of your piece of paper. What's going on there? Then we look at the right-hand side of the paper, which I call the utopia. And that is where people are when they have finished working with you. So that could be 3 months, 6 months, that could be 1 day, that could be a workshop, that could be a done for you service. What is happening over this side? Okay, what is happening when people have finished working with you? This is called the utopia. So hopefully when we bring Sabika on, we can actually give some examples of this, because we really want to get clear on the journey then. So then we look at the journey path to get there. What are you doing to help your clients go from their underworld to their utopia? What is happening? What tools are you using? What modalities are you using? What steps are you using? What processes? What approaches? What exercises? What theories? Whatever it is, what is it that you're doing in the middle to get them from their underworld to their utopia, however you want to call it, the pain to their profit, or whatever you want to call it? What's happening in the middle? And when you actually write that down and list it all out, you'll see that there's loads and loads of stuff in there. That could be a 3 months program's worth of coaching, or it could be 6 months worth of a process that you're taking people through. The next thing you need to do is chunk it up. Okay, so you chunk that up and look at themes, group these things together in as little or as many themes as you want, but these things need to be chunked. It could be that there's a process to it. So the client has to go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 to be able to get from their underworld to their utopia. It could be that there are a number of paths that they could go down and there's not a specific order, but there are themes that you have seen from working with your clients, from getting the results that you have, as to what that actually looks like. So once you've actually got those themes, then you can start to group them together and look at it. Is it a process? Is it a, step B, step C? Is it 3 key themes? Is it 5 key points? What are the grouped aspects of the journey that help you take your client from A to B? And this will take a little bit of time to look at, it'll take a little bit of time to focus on, because then you can start to think of it visually. When you start to think of it visually, that's where things can start to pop out at you, because what we actually want as a result of this is a visual representation of your method. And I want to give you a few examples of what that could look like. My AIR system is my most recent expert method. That has 3 key areas: authority, impact, and reach. And I group that together from seeing the journey that my clients go on from their underworld to their utopia. Authority, impact, and reach. And I created a radar map of that. Under those 3 areas, there's 4 subsections. So for example, under authority, it's thought leader brand, core story, ideas worth spreading, and this one, which is the expert method, because authority is a huge part of becoming a speaker, a credible speaker in your industry. So then I've got impact, then I've got reach, and those have got subsections. And what I did is I created a radar map so that you can clearly see the AIR system. Now, I don't take my clients through the step-by-step process, because it could be that someone's got their authority nailed, but their impact and reach needs work. It could be that they need to work on their authority first. So there's no linear process, which is why I created a radar map, a circle, which is a visual representation of my expert method. And I can provide this for you if you want to see what that actually looks like. I've created an assessment. I can provide the link to that if you want to see. Can I just check in, Sabika, are you still here? And are you able to join? So let's have a look, see if you can join, Sabika, because I'd really love to bring you back on so we can actually bring this to life. So thank you, Tom. Have you put your LinkedIn there? That's awesome. So that's what mine looks like. When I first created my first expert method, that was the beginning of my business, and I created a mountain, because people needed to go to base camp first, and then they needed to complete the steps to get to the top, and at the top was clarity. And there was this 8 stages that they needed to work through to actually get to that place. And I created an infographic that was a visual representation of my expert method so that people could download it. You could use it as a lead magnet. You could put it into a book and then break that down. You can put it into a program. You could put it into a keynote talk. Let's just see what's happening here. Okay. Hopefully I have just accepted you. Sabika.
I'm here.
There we go. There we go. We're back.
So I kept sending the request and it kept saying you can't send the request. So I think it's only when you then requested me that it's now come through. So
sorry. So I was just explaining about the underworld, utopia, and the journey. So let's use a few examples for you. I've got them written down. So when we were working on this, what sort of things are your clients experiencing when they're in the underworld and they're in the pain and they're in the challenge or the problem before they start working with you?
Okay, so what we talked about before was their pain points, right? And this is what it is to be right in their underworld. So first of all, the concept of they need to accept that the challenges that they're currently now facing stems from childhood, right? Mm-hmm. And then the challenges of not knowing who they are, lack of confidence, the feeling of unworthiness, having a lack of boundaries, having that feeling of constantly being in the circle of people pleasing, lack of emotional regulation, that volcanic eruption kind of feeling, just feeling unhappy, insecure, toxic thoughts, blaming others is a big one. And then also, things like parental challenges, marital problems, breaking that cycle of attracting that same toxic person again and again.
Yeah. And I've got all those down, and I could really feel that and relate to that and connect with that when you were talking about that. Let's move over to the other side. When they've finished working with you, what does that look like?
So when they've finished working with me, in terms of what they achieve, right, is self-awareness, that inner knowing of who they are and what that tangibly feels like, having that inner peace, that balance, and primarily building on that inner relationship that they have with themselves as the foundation to build on every other relationship that they have on top of that. And it, that concept of compassion, self-acceptance of how they were raised in their parental relationship, and having that self-ownership. But then most importantly, what they find is they get to a place of unblindfolding themselves, and having that self-ownership, and becoming objective. And I like to say it's stepping out of the forest of their own minds to kind of just objectively see themselves, right?
I love it. So as we were talking, and then we talked about the journey path for your clients to go from there to there, you were talking about you have like a 16 session deep dive. So that's a specific number of sessions that you have that guides them through. And we were talking about, is that linear, or is that something that they might go to one place first? And what we discovered is there is actually a foundational part that needs to be focused on first. And we started looking at grouping these things together in the middle, in the journey, that would make sense, that would look like a journey for them, and thinking about how that would be visually represented. And I think what we talked about first was the first really important part, which we would think of like as roots, or a roots foundational stage, was was a stage of self-awareness. And that's not the inner child phase, that's the next part. But the first stage is the roots of self-awareness. What sort of things are happening at that stage?
So at that stage, and I mentioned this to you before, Helen, I use the Enneagram. So the Enneagram is a powerful self-development, self-awareness tool. So the first part of my journey, about 5-6 sessions of the journey that I take clients on, is all about the Enneagram. And it's all about just knowing who you are from the root, from inside out. So it's all about core motivations. It's all about vulnerabilities. It's all about core fears, and really understanding what those blind spots are that we don't see in ourselves, but other people see in us. So it's really working from the roots, understanding who we are.
So once that stage has been not completed, but because it's always a journey, not a destination, right, with this, we then talked about moving up to the inner child phase, which is around self-acceptance. What's happening there?
So in this phase, it's all about saying, okay, now I know who I am, and I've got that solid understanding of what's hidden inside of me. So now the inner child phase is all about understanding what happened before and why am I acting like this. So it's asking yourself all of these powerful questions, and me guiding you to understand what those connections are and the story of you. So it's going into parental relationships, into the mother wound, into the father wound. It's about having compassion with how you were raised, knowing that parents also come with their own traumas and their own wounds. It's acceptance of that. It's creating pathways to reconnect back to the parents, because it's if you don't have that connection back to the parents in a compassionate way, it's almost always going to affect the relationships that you have now as an adult. So it's having no blame, it's saying I am worthy, it's saying I am loved, and it's about letting go and embracing how you were raised, so you can now build on that foundation and continue that journey.
A very, very important self-reflective phase of letting go, of acceptance, right? And then we kind of discussed that there is a third phase, and we're moving up to the third phase, and this is about self-ownership.
Yes.
And what's happening here?
So this stage is all about bringing it all together. So this is where the story of you begins to flourish. It's understanding your roots are solid, and your roots are, you know what your roots are and where you come from and who you are. And then you know why you're built up into this way of, you know, the relationships that you've had with your parents and the experiences that you've had, and you've understood your traumas and your unmet needs. So the last phase is all about that ownership of, hey, I know all of this stuff and I've got this self-awareness. So now what tools am I using to build on my ownership of the relationships that I'm having today? And those relationships are with your partner, whether it's an intimate relationship, with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends, with your boss, with your work colleagues. So it's relationships as a whole, as an adult, and using those tools and skills that you've now learned to really flourish in that ownership.
And when we were talking about this, for me, I was getting this very strong visual image of a tree. And we were talking about that, weren't we? And a phrase came to mind: from the roots to the fruits, right? Yeah, that was you, wasn't it? And it's such a powerful thing when we think about a tree in this context as Sabika's expert method, because we're starting at the roots of the tree. This foundational stuff needs to happen. We go to the middle of the tree, and I was imagining a hole in the tree with I thought an owl, but you were talking about a child in the middle of the tree, which is the inner child phase. And then we move to the third phase, which is the fruits, which is the flowers on the branches of the third phase. So just to reiterate that, the first phase is self-awareness at the roots. Then we move to the middle of the tree, and that is self-acceptance. And then we move to the top of the tree, which is self-ownership. And I remember drawing this picture.
I love it.
Of what this actually visually looks like. And you said that you'd like to call it the tree of reparenting.
Yeah.
And for me, this is an expert method, because what we've done here is we've taken Sabika's unique, and don't forget, Sabika's story goes into this as well, in terms of how she communicates this. Her whole expertise, the way that she approaches this journey for her clients, is unique in this journey. She has come up with these different stages and the different components that are explored at each stage. And now we have a visual representation of her expert method, and it's called something as well. So the next stage of this is to actually create a visual for it. And that can be done on an infographic, it can be done on Canva, it can be done by someone who can design that for you. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it's a visual way of showing what your expert method is. And so your clients or potential clients can see, there's 3 key stages, there's 3 phases. That makes sense to me: self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-ownership. I'm connecting with that. But they don't know the minutiae, because that comes when you actually have a call with them, or you explain that in more detail, or you might unpack that in blogs or trainings or content on social media, that you can then hang everything that you do off this expert method, write a book about it, and put it in a signature talk. Because when you create a signature talk around your own expert method, that is a completely unique talk to you. And I've seen many keynote speakers who have built their talks around their expert methods. And it's a really visual, articulate, succinct way of packaging up your expertise. So what happens next with this then, Sabika? Have you, because obviously we spoke, I think it was last week or something. What are you going to do with this next?
So I've actually already spoken to a VA, which you suggested, so thank you for that. And, you know, for me, it's just the process itself has been phenomenal in the sense that this is the next step that I was looking for. And it really was that visual concept of, hey, I can keep talking and keep telling my story, but unless there's that visual to tap into the visual learners, it's not going anywhere. So this is now another piece to that puzzle of the unique journey that I'm taking people on. So yes, next steps for me is get this tree that you've got drawn down from your paper onto some sort of Canva poster. I'm going to probably have one to three, probably about three different pictures of stages. So just the three stages, and then some with a little bit more information, and some with a bit more information. Easy for it to go up on Instagram, easy for it to become, you know, be pasted at the bottom of my reel. And then, you know, I might even make it into some sort of speech, because I know that it's got those sections, and it's like a scaffold, isn't it? Of
Yes.
just structuring a speech. So yeah, I feel like there's lots that can be unpacked with just that tree. And you know what I really liked about it is it's really got my energy. Though you've helped me along the way, it's got my vibe and my energy in that tree, because I constantly do talk about roots and trees and foundations, and we have to understand all of that. And it's a journey. And, you know, those fruits are forever. You have to keep nurturing them. They don't just disappear. You have to keep nurturing them and keep growing. And we know that reparenting is a lifelong journey. And my tree and my journey that I take you on is going to be so much different to any other tree that's out there. And there's plenty out there. So, you know, it's really about, that's my tree. This is the journey that I'm taking you on. Enjoy the fruits.
Yes. And I love that. And I think that's a really good example of showing that this isn't like a blanket approach, this process. It is actually about extracting the gold inside of you, creating your own vibe, all based on your expertise and experience. It's just there is a process that you can use to create it. So I really hope that anybody watching or watching the replay can see that this is possible, and that you can use this in a myriad of ways, a number of ways, to increase your visibility, your authority, your expert status, get more people hearing about what you do, and give you the thoughts of how you can put this into a talk. So thank you so much, Sabika, for joining me live today. I've really, really appreciated you coming on and sharing that, and I'm excited to see what happens next. And if you want help creating your expert method, I'm running an event next week where I am doing a live masterclass looking at authority, impact, and reach, which is my expert method. Day one is authority, and I'm going to be walking you through, amongst many other things, how you can create your own expert method. So I'm going to pop the link below, and you can sign up to that. It's free, and it's 12 till 1 each day. You can have it whilst you're eating your sandwiches over lunch. Thank you so much, Sabika.
And thank you so much for inviting me.
And I will speak to you very soon.
Okay, take care. See you. Bye.